The Halloween party at Richard's house buzzed with the kind of suburban energy that made me question every life choice I'd made since turning 35. I adjusted my pirate hat for the 10th time, watching my wife Alicia command attention in her sleek black Catwoman costume. She moved through the crowd like she owned the place, which, knowing her, she probably thought she did. "Greg, you look like you're about to walk the plank," Richard said, appearing beside me with 2 beers. His vampire costume looked like he'd raided a teenager's closet, but at least he was trying. "Just enjoying the show," I replied, accepting the beer gratefully. Restaurant management had taught me to read people, and tonight everyone seemed to be performing rather than just being themselves. Alicia laughed at something Dominic Martinez said near the kitchen island. The guy was built like a truck and dressed as Tarzan, complete with the kind of chest that made me suddenly aware of my own dad bod hidden beneath the pirate shirt. He worked at the automotive plant across town, spent more time at the gym than most people spent sleeping, and had the kind of confidence that came from never questioning whether you belonged somewhere. "Your wife looks incredible tonight," Nikki, Richard's wife, joined our conversation. She was dressed as Wonder Woman, though she looked more like a tired mom than an Amazon warrior. That costume must have cost a fortune. "Probably," I said, though I couldn't remember Alicia mentioning buying it. Come to think of it, I hadn't seen the credit card statement either. Across the room, Susie Williams appeared next to Alicia, and I nearly choked on my beer. She was wearing an identical Catwoman costume. Not similar, identical, same cut, same material, same everything. They looked like twins, separated by about 5 years and $20,000 worth of personal training. "Well, that's awkward," Richard muttered. But Alicia and Susie didn't look awkward. They looked pleased. They struck poses together, laughing as someone took photos. The crowd gathered around them, making jokes about seeing double, about which Catwoman was the real one. Dominic stood close enough to both of them that I couldn't tell which one he was actually talking to. "Ladies and gentlemen," someone shouted over the music, "we have a Catwoman situation." More laughter, more photos. I watched my wife bask in the attention while I stood in the corner like the world's most forgettable pirate. This was supposed to be our night out, our first real party in months. But here I was, feeling like an extra in someone else's movie. "Don't take it personally," Nikki said, noticing my expression. "You know how Alicia gets at parties." That was the problem. I did know. Alicia transformed at social gatherings, became this magnetic version of herself that drew people in like moths to a flame. At home, she was different. Distant, critical, always pointing out what I wasn't doing right, what I wasn't providing, what I wasn't being. "Greg!" Alicia's voice cut through the noise. She was beckoning me over with one perfectly manicured finger. "Come here. We need a photo with both Catwomen and their men." I made my way through the crowd, feeling every eye on me. Dominic was already positioning himself next to Susie, his massive arm draped casually around her waist. I took my place next to Alicia, who immediately stiffened slightly at my touch. "Smile, pirates and Catwomen," the photographer said. I smiled. The camera flashed. Everyone cheered. But something felt wrong about the whole thing, like I was participating in a joke I didn't understand. "Perfect," Alicia said, immediately stepping away from me. "Now just the girls." More photos, more poses. I watched my wife and her best friend work the crowd like they'd rehearsed this routine, which, knowing them, they probably had. "Drink?" Dominic asked me, though his eyes never left the 2 women. "Sure." We walked to the bar setup in Richard's dining room. The guy moved with the kind of easy confidence that came from never doubting your place in the world. His costume left little to the imagination, and I caught several women staring as we passed. "Your wife and Susie really know how to make an entrance," he said, mixing drinks with surprising skill for a factory worker. "They certainly do." "Must be nice, having a woman who turns heads wherever she goes." There was something in his tone that made me look at him more carefully. Yeah, it has its moments. I bet. He handed me a whiskey that was stronger than anything Richard usually served. Course, sometimes the most beautiful masks hide the most interesting secrets. What's that supposed to mean? Dominic grinned, showing teeth that were too white and too perfect. Nothing, man. Just making conversation. Halloween brings out everyone's hidden side, you know? Before I could respond, Susie appeared beside us. Up close, the similarity between her costume and Alicia's was even more striking. They hadn't just bought similar outfits. These were custom-made, probably ordered together. "Boys' talking shop?" she asked, though her attention was focused entirely on Dominic. "Just discussing the art of costume selection," Dominic replied smoothly. "Well, what do you think? Did we nail it?" "You certainly nailed something," I said. Susie's smile faltered for just a moment. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Just that you two clearly put a lot of planning into this. Matching costumes don't just happen by accident." "We thought it would be fun," she said, but there was an edge to her voice now. "Sisters in costume, you know." "Sisters," I repeated. "Right." The music changed to something with a heavier beat, and people started dancing in the living room. Alicia appeared as if summoned, sliding between Dominic and Susie with practiced ease. "Dance?" she asked, but she wasn't looking at me. "Absolutely," Dominic said. I watched my wife take another man's hand and lead him onto the makeshift dance floor. Susie followed, and soon the three of them were moving together in a way that made me feel like I was watching something I shouldn't be seeing. "They look good together," someone said behind me. I turned to find Karen, the bartender from Murphy's downtown. She was dressed as a witch, complete with pointed hat and knowing smile. "Excuse me?" "The three of them. They move like they've done this before." "Done what before?" Karen shrugged. "Danced together, hung out, whatever you want to call it." "What are you trying to say, Karen?" "Nothing. Just making an observation." She paused, studying my face. "You okay, Greg? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just tired. Long week at the restaurant." "Right. Well, if you need anything stronger than beer, let me know. Sometimes parties like this require a little extra courage." She melted back into the crowd, leaving me alone with my thoughts and my increasingly strong drink. On the dance floor, Alicia was pressed close to Dominic, their bodies moving in perfect sync. Susie danced nearby, occasionally joining their rhythm in a way that seemed choreographed. I pulled out my phone and pretended to check messages, but really, I was taking photos. Call it professional paranoia from years of managing staff and watching for problems before they exploded. Something was happening here, something that went beyond innocent party fun. Getting some good shots? Richard appeared beside me, following my gaze. "Just documenting the evening." "Uh-huh." He was quiet for a moment. "Greg, can I ask you something?" "Shoot." "How long have Alicia and Susie been this close?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, they're practically joined at the hip lately. Gym sessions, shopping trips, girls' nights. Nikki mentioned they're planning some big weekend getaway." My stomach tightened. "What weekend getaway?" "Miami, I think. Susie was talking about it at the office. Some kind of spa retreat or beach thing." Richard looked uncomfortable. "I figured you knew." "Of course I knew," I lied smoothly. "Just checking if the details were public knowledge yet." But I didn't know. Alicia hadn't mentioned any trip to Miami. We'd been having money troubles lately, arguing about expenses and credit card statements. A weekend in Miami wasn't exactly in our budget. The song ended, and the three dancers separated. Alicia was flushed and laughing, her hand lingering on Dominic's arm just a moment too long. Susie whispered something in her ear that made them both giggle like teenagers. "I need some air," I announced to no one in particular. Outside, Richard's backyard was decorated with fake tombstones and plastic skeletons. The October air was crisp enough to cut through the whiskey haze, and I found myself actually able to think clearly for the first time all evening. My phone buzzed with a text message, unknown number. Enjoying the show? I looked around the empty yard, then back at the house. Through the windows, I could see the party continuing without me. Alicia was now talking intensely with Susie near the kitchen, their heads close together like conspirators. I typed back, "Who is this?" "Someone who thinks you deserve to know the truth." "What truth?" "Check your wife's gym schedule, then check Dominic's. Might be enlightening." The messages stopped. I stared at the phone, my mind racing. Alicia had been spending more time at the gym lately, coming home later, showering immediately. She'd claimed it was because of some new fitness program Susie had recommended. "Greg?" Alicia's voice came from the patio door. "What are you doing out here?" I turned to face my wife, still stunning in her Catwoman costume, still playing the role of devoted spouse. "Just getting some air, needed a break from the crowd." "Well, come back in. Susie wants to talk to both of us about something." "What about?" "I don't know. She said it was important." I followed her back inside, my mind churning with questions I wasn't sure I wanted answered. The party seemed louder now, more chaotic. People were drinking more, laughing harder, the masks and costumes making everyone feel bolder, more reckless. Susie was waiting for us in Richard's study, away from the main crowd. Dominic was with her, and seeing the four of us together in the small room felt claustrophobic. "What's this about?" I asked. "Well," Susie began, glancing at Alicia, "we wanted to talk to you about our Miami trip." "What about it?" "We're thinking of making it a couples thing instead. You know, expand the group, make it more fun." I looked at Alicia, who was avoiding my eyes. "Couples?" "Dominic's wife, Patricia, is out of town a lot for work," Susie continued, "and we thought it might be nice for him to have some company. You know, balance out the group dynamics." "So you want me and Dominic to join your girls' weekend?" "Why not?" Alicia finally spoke. "It could be fun. Beach, drinks, good company." I studied their faces, looking for tells the way I'd learned to read difficult customers at the restaurant. Susie was too eager, talking too fast. Alicia was too casual, like she'd rehearsed this conversation. And Dominic was watching me with the same predatory interest I'd noticed earlier. "When exactly is this trip?" I asked. "Next weekend," Alicia said quickly. "I know it's short notice, but we got a great deal on a hotel." "What hotel?" "The Fontainebleau," Susie answered. "Dominic has connections in the hospitality industry." That was news to me. As far as I knew, Dominic installed car parts for a living. When had he developed connections at luxury Miami hotels? "Sounds expensive," I said. "That's the beauty of it," Dominic finally spoke. "I can get us a group rate, practically paying for itself." "How generous of you." "Just looking out for friends." Friends? When had Dominic and I become friends? We'd barely spoken before tonight, and now he was offering to subsidize our vacation? "I'll need to check the restaurant schedule," I said. "Can't just disappear on short notice." "Of course," Alicia said, but I could hear the disappointment in her voice. "Just let us know soon. The offer might not last long." "Right. Wouldn't want to miss out on such a great deal." The four of us stood there for a moment, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Susie broke the silence. "Well, we should get back to the party. People will start talking if we're all missing." "Can't have that," I said. They filed out of the study, leaving me alone with Richard's collection of golf trophies and business books. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app, typing quickly while the conversation was still fresh in my memory. Miami trip, next weekend, Fontainebleau Hotel, Dominic's connections, group rate. Then I opened my browser and searched for the Fontainebleau's rates for the following weekend. The cheapest room was $400 a night. Even with a group rate, we were talking about serious money. Money we didn't have. Money Alicia knew we didn't have. So where was this mysterious funding coming from? I rejoined the party, but something had fundamentally shifted. The costumes that had seemed fun earlier now felt like disguises. The laughter sounded forced, and every time I caught Alicia, Susie, and Dominic together, they looked like they were sharing secrets I wasn't invited to know. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of small talk and forced smiles. I played the role of the oblivious husband while my mind worked overtime, cataloging every glance, every whispered conversation, every moment when the three of them thought I wasn't watching. By the time we left, I had enough material to fill a notebook, and enough questions to keep me awake for weeks. The drive home was silent except for the soft hum of the engine and Alicia's occasional sighs. She sat in the passenger seat, still in her Catwoman costume, scrolling through photos from the party on her phone. In the glow of the screen, her face looked different somehow. Calculating. "Fun party?" I said, testing the waters. She didn't look up from her phone. "Richard and Nikki always throw good parties." "Interesting costume choice. You and Susie really committed to the matching look." "It was her idea. She thought it would be cute." "When did you two plan this? I don't remember you mentioning matching costumes." Alicia finally looked at me, her expression unreadable in the dashboard light. "We decided last week when we were shopping. Spur of the moment thing." Must have been some shopping trip to find identical custom costumes on the spur of the moment. They weren't custom, Greg. We just got lucky and found two in our sizes. But I'd gotten a good look at those costumes tonight. The material was too high quality, the fit too perfect. Those were definitely custom made, which meant they'd been planned weeks in advance. "So about this Miami trip," I continued. "What about it? When exactly were you planning to tell me about it?" Alicia put her phone down and turned to face me fully. "I'm telling you now. I wanted to make sure all the details were worked out before I got your hopes up." "My hopes up? I thought this was your girls' weekend." "It was. But when Dominic mentioned he could get us a deal, Susie thought it would be more fun as a group thing." How convenient that Dominic has hotel connections. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just seems like there's a lot about Dominic I don't know." We pulled into our driveway, and I shut off the engine. Our house looked smaller somehow in the darkness, more fragile, like a stage set that might collapse if you leaned on it wrong. "Greg, is there something you want to say?" Alicia asked as we walked to the front door. "Just trying to understand the logistics. 4 people, 1 hotel room?" "2 rooms, obviously. You and me in one, Susie and Dominic in the other." "Susie and Dominic. Since when are they a couple?" Alicia paused with her key halfway to the lock. "They're not, but they're both single, and it makes the room situation easier. Dominic's married. Separated, going through a messy divorce. Susie mentioned it at the gym. This was the first I'd heard about any separation. But then again, it seemed like there were a lot of things I was hearing about for the first time tonight." Inside, Alicia headed straight for the bedroom, already unzipping her costume. I followed, loosening my pirate shirt and trying to process everything that had happened. "How long have you and Susie been spending time with Dominic?" I asked. "We don't spend time with him. We just see him at the gym sometimes." "Seemed like more than sometimes tonight. You 3 looked pretty comfortable together." Alicia turned to face me, and for a moment, her mask slipped. I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. Annoyance, impatience, like I was a problem she needed to solve. "Greg, are you jealous? Should I be?" That's not an answer. Neither is yours. We stared at each other across our bedroom, still in our Halloween costumes, and I realized we looked like strangers playing dress-up. When had that happened? When had we become people who couldn't have a straight conversation about a weekend trip? "I'm going to shower," Alicia announced, grabbing her robe. "We can talk about this tomorrow when you're being more rational." Rational. There was that word again. Alicia had been using it a lot lately whenever I asked questions she didn't want to answer. as if wanting to understand my wife's plans made me irrational. After she disappeared into the bathroom, I sat on the edge of our bed and pulled out my phone. The anonymous text messages from earlier were still there, taunting me with their implications. Check your wife's gym schedule, then check Dominic's. I opened Alicia's laptop, which she'd left on the dresser. She'd never been particularly secretive about her passwords, probably because she'd never had anything to hide, or because she'd never thought I'd look. Her email was still open, and I scrolled through recent messages. Most were routine stuff, work emails, promotional offers from stores, but then I found a thread between her and Susie that made my stomach drop. Can't wait for Miami. Dee says the hotel has an amazing spa. Perfect. We'll need to relax after all the excitement. Think the boys will actually come? Greg will if I handle it right. He's been so suspicious lately. Good thing we have a backup plan. Always do. See you at the gym tomorrow. Same time? Wouldn't miss it. Dee is bringing those photos we talked about. Photos? What photos? I scrolled further but found nothing else about Miami or photos or backup plans. Just normal friend conversation about workout routines and restaurant recommendations. The shower was still running, so I opened a new browser tab and searched for Dominic Martinez on social media. His Facebook profile was mostly private, but I could see enough to confirm what Alicia had said. His relationship status was listed as "it's complicated," and there were no recent photos with his wife Patricia. But there were photos from the gym, lots of them, including several that featured Alicia and Susie in workout clothes, all of them looking very comfortable together. The photos were time-stamped over the past 2 months, which meant this friendship had been developing longer than Alicia had let on, much longer. I heard the shower turn off and quickly closed the laptop. By the time Alicia emerged from the bathroom, I was in my pajamas, pretending to read a magazine. Feel better? I asked. Much. That costume was starting to feel like a straitjacket. She climbed into bed beside me, smelling like expensive shampoo and body lotion. For a moment, she seemed like the woman I'd married 5 years ago. Soft, familiar, mine. Greg, about Miami. Yeah? If you really don't want to go, we don't have to make it a couples thing. Susie and I can still do our girls' weekend. With Dominic? He might tag along for some of it, but it would still be primarily a girls' trip. A girls' trip with a guy. A girls' trip with a friend who happens to be male. I set down my magazine and looked at her. Alicia, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? The question seemed to catch her off guard. What do you mean? I mean, are you happy? With us? With our life? With the way things are? She was quiet for a long moment, and in that silence, I heard my answer. I think we're going through a rough patch, she finally said, but all couples do. Is that what you call this? A rough patch? What would you call it? Honestly? I'd call it feeling like strangers who happen to share a mortgage. Alicia turned off her bedside lamp, plunging the room into darkness. Maybe we should talk about this when we're both less tired. Maybe we should talk about this now. Greg, please. I'm exhausted. I lay in the dark, listening to her breathing, waiting for it to even out into sleep. But she was awake too, I could tell. Both of us pretending to rest while our minds raced with thoughts we couldn't share. My phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. Gym opens at 5 a.m. Might be worth an early workout tomorrow. I stared at the message until my eyes burned, then deleted it along with the others. But I didn't delete the information. That was burned into my memory now, along with everything else that didn't quite add up. Alicia's breathing finally deepened into genuine sleep, and I slipped out of bed. In the kitchen, I made a cup of coffee and sat at our small table, looking out at our backyard. Everything looked normal in the moonlight. Our lawn chairs, Alicia's garden, the fence we'd installed last spring. But normal was an illusion. I was starting to understand that now. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app again, adding to my list from earlier. Matching costumes, planned in advance, not spontaneous. Dominic's hotel connections, needs verification. Alicia's gym schedule, check timestamps on social media photos. Anonymous texts, someone wants me to know something. Email thread with Susie, mentions photos and backup plans. I stared at the list until the words blurred together. Then I added one more item. Miami trip. Who's really paying for it? Because that was the question that kept nagging at me. Even with Dominic's mysterious group rate, we were talking about thousands of dollars for a weekend getaway. Money that would have to come from somewhere. Money that would show up on credit card statements. Money that would leave a trail. I finished my coffee and headed back to bed, but sleep was impossible now. I lay next to my wife, listening to her breathe, and wondered how many other conversations I'd missed, how many other plans had been made without my knowledge. And I wondered what exactly was in those photos Dominic was bringing to the gym. By morning, I'd made a decision. I was going to find out what was really happening, even if it meant discovering things I didn't want to know. Because living with questions was worse than living with answers, even terrible ones. I woke up before my alarm, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was finding Alicia's side of the bed empty at 5:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning. She was already dressed in workout clothes, moving quietly around the bedroom like she was trying not to wake me. "Early session today?" I asked, making her jump. "God, you scared me. I thought you were still asleep." "Where are you going this early?" "Gym. Susie wants to try this new boot camp class that starts at 6. I sat up, suddenly wide awake. "Since when do you do boot camp classes?" "Since Susie convinced me I needed to mix up my routine. You're always saying I should try new things." That was true. But I'd been talking about hobbies or restaurants, not pre-dawn military-style workouts. "What time will you be back?" "Not sure. We might grab breakfast after, do some shopping. Saturday stuff." She leaned over and kissed my forehead, a gesture that felt more like a dismissal than affection. "Go back to sleep. You don't have to be at the restaurant until noon." After she left, I lay in bed for exactly 5 minutes before getting dressed. The anonymous text from last night had mentioned the gym opening at 5 a.m., and now my wife was suddenly interested in early morning boot camp classes. Coincidences like that made me nervous. 20 minutes later, I was parked across the street from Fitness First, the upscale gym where Alicia had been spending most of her free time. The parking lot was surprisingly full for a Saturday morning, though I suppose people with expensive memberships were motivated to get their money's worth. I spotted Alicia's car immediately, parked next to Susie's silver BMW, and right next to that was a black pickup truck that I was starting to recognize. Dominic's truck. So much for the girls-only boot camp class. I waited 15 minutes before going inside. The gym's lobby was all glass and chrome, designed to make members feel like they were entering some kind of fitness temple. The teenage girl at the front desk barely looked up when I flashed my guest pass. "Looking for the boot camp class," I told her. "Studio B, 2nd floor, but I think it already started." "That's fine. I'll just observe today." Studio B had floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the main workout floor. I positioned myself where I could see inside without being easily spotted, and what I saw made my chest tighten. There was no boot camp class. There were maybe 8 people in the studio, doing what looked like partner stretching exercises. Alicia was paired with Dominic, his hands on her waist as he helped her into some kind of yoga pose. Susie was nearby with another guy I didn't recognize, but she kept glancing over at Alicia and Dominic with an expression I couldn't read. I pulled out my phone and started recording, keeping the camera low and casual. Restaurant management had taught me to document problems before they exploded, and my instincts were screaming that this was a problem. The class lasted another 20 minutes, but the stretching exercises looked more like foreplay than fitness. Dominic's hands lingered on my wife's body in ways that had nothing to do with proper form, and Alicia was laughing at everything he said with the kind of breathless giggles she used to reserve for me. When the session ended, I hurried back to the parking lot and waited in my car. They emerged together 15 minutes later, Alicia and Dominic walking close enough that their arms kept brushing. Susie trailed behind, checking her phone. They stood by their cars for another 10 minutes, talking in the kind of animated way that suggested they were making plans. Finally, Dominic got in his truck and left. Alicia and Susie talked for a few more minutes before getting in their respective cars. I followed Alicia at a distance, expecting her to head home or to the usual breakfast spot she and Susie frequented. Instead, she drove to a part of town I didn't recognize, pulling into the parking lot of a small office building. The sign out front read, Sunshine Travel Agency. I parked across the street and watched my wife disappear inside. She emerged 20 minutes later with a manila envelope and a satisfied expression. Travel arrangements. For a trip she'd told me was still in the planning stages. My phone rang as I was following her home, and I nearly jumped out of my skin when I saw the caller ID, Patricia Thornton, Dominic's wife. Hello? I answered, pulling over. Is this Greg Blackwood? Yes. This is Patricia Thornton. I think we need to talk. My heart started pounding. About what? About our spouses and their Miami trip. What do you know about the Miami trip? More than you do, I suspect. Can you meet me somewhere private? There are some things you need to see. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown in an hour. I drove home first, where I found Alicia in the kitchen, making herself a smoothie and humming cheerfully. How was boot camp? I asked. Brutal, but good. Susie was right about mixing up the routine. Learn anything new? Just that I'm more out of shape than I thought. She smiled at me, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married. What are you up to today? Thought I might run some errands before work. Need anything? Nope. I'm good. I kissed her goodbye and left for my meeting with Patricia, my mind racing with possibilities. What did Dominic's wife know? How much had she figured out? And why was she reaching out to me instead of confronting her own husband? The coffee shop was busy with the Saturday morning crowd, but I spotted Patricia immediately. She was sitting in a corner booth, a petite woman with short brown hair and the kind of tired eyes that came from too many sleepless nights. Greg? She asked as I approached. Patricia, thanks for calling. I sat down across from her and got my first good look at Dominic's wife. She was pretty in an understated way, the kind of woman who probably looked better without makeup than with it. But there was something brittle about her now, like she was holding herself together through sheer force of will. I wasn't sure if I should contact you, she began, but I figured you deserved to know what's really happening. What is really happening? Instead of answering, she pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. They were from Dominic, and they made my stomach turn. Can't wait for Miami. Finally going to make this official. Hotel is booked. Told Greg it was a group thing to throw him off. Susie's handling Alicia's cover story. Everything's set. After this weekend, we won't have to sneak around anymore. I stared at the messages until the words started to blur. When did you get these? Last night after he got home from your party. He was drunk and careless, left his phone on the kitchen counter. Patricia's voice was steady, but I could see her hands shaking. There are more. She scrolled to another conversation, this one between Dominic and someone named A in his contacts. Gym session was perfect. Greg doesn't suspect anything. Good. Susie says he's been asking questions about money. Don't worry. After Miami, money won't be an issue. Can't wait to stop pretending. This is harder than I thought. Just a few more days. Then we can tell everyone. I looked up at Patricia, who was watching my face carefully. I'm sorry, she said quietly. How long have you known? Suspected for about a month. Confirmed last night. She put her phone away and leaned forward. Greg, there's something else. The Miami trip isn't just about them getting together. They're planning something bigger. What do you mean? I think they're planning to leave, both of them. Start over somewhere new. The coffee shop suddenly felt too hot, too crowded. I loosened my collar and tried to process what Patricia was telling me. You think they're planning to run away together? I think they're planning to disappear together. With our money. What money? Patricia pulled out a manila folder and spread several documents across the table. Bank statements, credit card bills, loan applications. Dominic's been moving money around for weeks, closing accounts, taking cash advances, applying for loans, using our house as collateral. She pointed to one of the statements. Look at this. The statement showed a series of large cash withdrawals, each one just under the reporting threshold that would trigger automatic bank notifications. $50,000, Patricia continued. Gone, and that's just from the accounts I know about. I studied the documents, my restaurant manager brain automatically calculating totals and timelines. This is systematic, planned. Exactly. And if Dominic is doing this, what do you think your wife is doing? I thought about Alicia's trip to the travel agency, about the mysterious funding for their Miami weekend, about all the questions she'd been deflecting lately. I need to check our accounts, I said. Do it now, while we're both here. I pulled out my phone and logged into our online banking. What I found made my chest tighten. 3 large cash withdrawals over the past 2 weeks, totaling $8,000. Money I hadn't authorized, from accounts I thought required both signatures. How is this possible? I muttered. Joint accounts? Patricia asked. Supposedly. But these withdrawals, check your credit cards. I did. 2 new cards I'd never applied for, both maxed out. Total debt, $15,000. Jesus. They're not just having an affair, Greg. They're stealing from us. I stared at the numbers on my phone screen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. This wasn't just betrayal. This was systematic theft. What do we do? I asked. Patricia smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. We stop them. How? By being smarter than they think we are. She gathered up her documents and put them back in the folder. They think we're the naive spouses who'll never figure it out. They're wrong. What are you proposing? I'm proposing we give them exactly what they want. Let them go to Miami. Let them think they've gotten away with it. And then? And then we spring the trap. I looked at this woman I'd never met before today, this stranger who was offering to help me catch my wife in whatever scheme she was running. Why would you help me? Because they took something from both of us, and because I want them to pay for it. Patricia stood up and extended her hand. Partners? I shook it, feeling like I was crossing some kind of line I could never uncross. Partners. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Alicia. Susie and I are going shopping for Miami outfits. Might be late. Don't wait up. I typed back, have fun. Can't wait for the trip. But what I was really thinking was, neither can I, because now I had a plan, and I had an ally. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like I was the one holding the cards. The next few days passed in a strange kind of suspended animation. Alicia continued her routine of early gym sessions and mysterious errands, while I played the role of the oblivious husband with increasing skill. But underneath the performance, I was gathering intelligence with the methodical precision of a restaurant manager conducting inventory. Patricia and I met twice more, always in different locations, always careful to avoid being seen together. She was proving to be a valuable ally, someone who understood the stakes and wasn't interested in emotional dramatics. This was business now. I've been monitoring Dominic's communications, she told me during our Wednesday meeting at a diner across town. They're definitely planning to disappear after Miami. Disappear how? New identities, new city, new life. Susie's been researching apartments in Austin under a fake name. I have the screenshots. Patricia showed me printouts of apartment listings, all saved under the name Sarah Mitchell, the same name that appeared on one of the new credit cards in my account. Alicia's using the same alias, I realized. They've been planning this for months, Greg. This isn't some spur-of-the-moment affair. This is a calculated theft. I studied the apartment listings, noting the prices and locations. These weren't cheap places. They were planning to start their new life in style. How much money are we talking about total? Patricia consulted her notes. Between your accounts and mine, probably close to 100,000. Maybe more if they've been skimming cash from other sources. The number hit me like a punch to the gut. $100,000. Our entire savings, plus debt that would take years to pay off. We need to stop them before Miami, I said. No. Patricia's voice was firm. We need to let them go to Miami, but we need to control what happens there. What do you mean? I mean, we need to be there too. Watching, recording, gathering evidence. They'll see us. Not if we're careful. The Fontainebleau is a huge hotel. Easy to blend in. I considered this. What's the end game here? We catch them together, then what? Then we destroy them, publicly, completely. There was something in Patricia's tone that made me look at her more carefully. This wasn't just about recovering stolen money. This was personal. What aren't you telling me? I asked. Patricia was quiet for a long moment, stirring her coffee with mechanical precision. Dominic's done this before. What? The affair, the theft, the disappearing act. He did it to his first wife too, left her with nothing but debt and a destroyed credit rating. How do you know this? Because I helped him do it. The admission hung in the air between us like a toxic cloud. I stared at this woman I'd thought was an innocent victim, realizing I'd completely misread the situation. You helped him steal from his first wife? I was young and stupid and thought I was in love. He convinced me she was the problem, that she was holding him back, that we deserved to be happy. Patricia's voice was bitter now. Took me 3 years to realize I'd just become his next target. So this is revenge for you. This is justice. There's a difference. I wasn't sure there was, but I understood the motivation now. Patricia wasn't just trying to stop Dominic. She was trying to balance the scales. What about Alicia? I asked. Is she a victim here or a willing participant? Does it matter? She's stealing from you either way. That was true, but it mattered to me. The difference between being betrayed by someone who'd been manipulated and being betrayed by someone who was actively choosing to destroy me. I need to know, I said. Then find out, but don't let it change the plan. Whatever her motivations are, the result is the same. That evening, I decided to test Patricia's theory. I came home from the restaurant with a bottle of wine and a story about getting a bonus from my manager. Really? Alicia seemed genuinely surprised. How much? 5,000. Not huge, but enough to make Miami a little more comfortable. I watched her face carefully, looking for tells. What I saw was calculation, like she was trying to figure out how this unexpected money fit into whatever plan she was running. That's wonderful, she said finally. We should celebrate. Actually, I was thinking we should be smart about it, maybe put it toward the credit card debt. What credit card debt? The question was asked too quickly, too innocently. Alicia knew exactly what debt I was talking about. The 15,000 we apparently owe. You know the cards I never applied for? Oh, that. She waved her hand dismissively. I meant to tell you about those. Susie recommended them for the travel rewards. I figured we could pay them off after Miami. With what money? Well, your bonus, for starters. I opened the wine and poured 2 glasses, buying myself time to process this conversation. Alicia was lying to my face with the kind of casual confidence that suggested she'd had plenty of practice. Alicia, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy with us? It was the same question I'd asked her after the Halloween party, but this time I was listening for different things. This time I was listening for lies. I think we're in a transition period, she said carefully. Sometimes relationships need to evolve. Evolve how? I don't know yet, but I think Miami will give us some clarity. About what? About what we both really want. She was telling me she was planning to leave me, but doing it in a way that gave her plausible deniability if I confronted her directly. It was actually impressive in its calculated cruelty. I love you, I said, testing her reaction. I love you too, she replied automatically, but her eyes were already moving toward her phone, which had just buzzed with a text message. She read it quickly, then smiled. Susie wants to know if we've finalized our flight arrangements. Have we? I booked us tickets this afternoon. We leave Friday morning, come back Sunday night. What airline? American. I got us seats together. But I knew from Patricia that Dominic had booked separate flights on different airlines, arriving in Miami an hour apart, which meant Alicia was lying about the seating arrangements too. Can't wait, I said. Me neither. That night, after Alicia fell asleep, I called Patricia from the garage. She's definitely in on it, I reported. This isn't manipulation. She's an active participant. Good. That makes what we're going to do easier. What exactly are we going to do? We're going to give them the weekend of their dreams, and then we're going to make sure it becomes their worst nightmare. Patricia outlined her plan, and as I listened, I felt something cold and hard settling in my chest. This wasn't just about recovering stolen money anymore. This was about making sure Alicia and Dominic understood that there were consequences for their choices. Are you sure about this? I asked when she finished. Are you? I thought about the lies, the theft, the months of deception. I thought about coming home every day to a woman who was systematically destroying our life while pretending to love me. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. Then pack your bags, Greg. We're going to Miami. The next morning, Alicia was practically vibrating with excitement. She'd laid out clothes for the trip, organized her toiletries, and was checking and rechecking her phone every few minutes. Nervous? I asked. Just excited. It's been so long since we've had a real vacation. When was the last time? Our honeymoon, I think. 5 years ago. Had it really been that long since we'd traveled together? When had we stopped making time for experiences, for building memories together? Maybe we should do this more often, I said. Maybe we should. But we both knew this would be our last trip together. The only question was whether Alicia realized I knew it too. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Everything ready on my end. See you in paradise. I looked at my wife, still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with, and felt something inside me break completely. Miami, here we come, I said. Alicia smiled, but she was already somewhere else in her mind, already with someone else, already gone. Miami hit us like a wall of heat and humidity the moment we stepped off the plane. Alicia immediately perked up, her energy shifting into a higher gear as we made our way through the airport. She was checking her phone constantly, texting someone with the kind of rapid-fire intensity that suggested important coordination was happening. Susie's flight landed 20 minutes ago, she announced as we waited for our luggage. She's already at the hotel. What about Dominic? His flight was delayed, won't be here for another hour. But I knew from Patricia that Dominic's flight had actually landed 30 minutes before ours. He was probably already checked into the hotel, waiting for the right moment to make his entrance. The Fontainebleau was exactly as advertised, a massive, luxurious monument to excess on Miami Beach. Our room was on the 15th floor with a view of the ocean that would have taken my breath away under different circumstances. This is incredible, Alicia breathed, standing on the balcony with her arms spread wide. I could get used to this. Expensive taste. Dominic really came through with that group rate. I'd checked. There was no group rate. The rooms were being paid for with cash advances from our stolen credit cards, but Alicia was maintaining the fiction that Dominic was some kind of hospitality industry insider. Should we find Susie? I suggested. She said she'd meet us at the pool in an hour. Wants to get settled first. What room is she in? 1207. I made a mental note. Patricia had told me she'd be staying in room 1205, right across the hall from Susie. The proximity was intentional. I think I'll take a shower, Alicia said. Wash off the travel grime. Good idea. I might walk around, get oriented. Don't get lost. I'll try not to. While Alicia showered, I stepped onto the balcony and called Patricia. We're here, I said quietly. I know. I saw you check in. Where are you? Bar off the lobby. Dominic's here too, pretending to read a newspaper while he watches the elevators. Has he seen you? No. I'm wearing a disguise. Wig, sunglasses, different clothes than he's used to seeing me in. The idea of Patricia in disguise would have been funny under different circumstances. But there was nothing funny about any of this anymore. What's the plan for tonight? Let them have their reunion. I'm recording everything from my room. Tomorrow is when we make our move. Are you sure about the timing? Trust me, Greg. I know how this works. I hung up as Alicia emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in one of the hotel's plush robes. She looked beautiful and relaxed, like a woman about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. Which, in a way, she was. Ready for paradise? She asked. Ready as I'll ever be. We made our way down to the pool area, which was a sprawling complex of multiple pools, bars, and cabanas. The place was packed with beautiful people doing beautiful people things, and Alicia fit right in. There's Susie, she said, waving toward a woman in a red bikini who was lounging by the main pool. Susie looked up and waved back, her smile bright and genuine. If I didn't know better, I'd think she was actually happy to see me. Greg, she called out as we approached. You made it. Wouldn't miss it. She hugged me with what seemed like real warmth, and for a moment I wondered if I'd gotten this whole thing wrong. Maybe Susie was innocent. Maybe this really was just a friend's vacation that had gotten complicated. Then I saw her eyes flick toward the bar where a familiar figure was ordering drinks. Dominic's here, she announced, as if this was a surprise. Already? Alicia asked, but she was already looking in his direction. His flight got in early. Lucky us. Dominic approached, carrying a tray of tropical drinks, wearing swim trunks that showed off his gym-sculpted physique. He looked like he belonged in this place, like he'd been born for luxury resorts and poolside service. Ladies, he said, distributing drinks. And Greg, welcome to paradise. Thanks for setting this up, I said. Must have been a lot of work coordinating everything. Worth it to see everyone happy. We spent the next hour making small talk and pretending to be normal friends on a normal vacation. But underneath the surface, I could feel the tension building. Alicia and Dominic kept finding excuses to touch each other, passing sunscreen, adjusting umbrella angles, reaching for drinks at the same time. Susie was clearly playing lookout, keeping track of who was watching and when. I'm going to grab some food, I announced around 6 o'clock. Anyone want anything? I'll come with you, Alicia said quickly. No need. You're just getting comfortable. I'll bring back a selection. Are you sure? Positive. Enjoy the sun. I could feel their relief as I walked away. Finally, they could drop the act and be themselves. I made my way to the lobby bar where Patricia was nursing a martini and watching a baseball game on the overhead TV. In her blonde wig and oversized sunglasses, she looked like a different person entirely. How's paradise? She asked without looking at me. Educational. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Good. Overconfidence makes people sloppy. What's happening in room 1207? Dominic checked in 2 hours ago. Susie joined him about 30 minutes after that. They've been in there ever since. Together? Very together from the sounds of it. So Susie wasn't innocent after all. She was part of the deception, playing her own angle while helping Alicia and Dominic play theirs. How many people are they planning to screw over? I muttered. As many as it takes to fund their new life. I ordered food and drinks to take back to the pool, playing my role as the dutiful husband. When I returned, I found the three of them in animated conversation that stopped abruptly when they saw me coming. "Food delivery," I announced. "Perfect timing," Alicia said. "We were just talking about dinner plans." "Oh?" "There's this amazing restaurant Dominic knows about. Supposed to have the best seafood in Miami." "Sounds expensive." "It's a special occasion," Susie chimed in. "When's the next time we'll all be in Miami together?" Never, if things went according to plan, but I just smiled and nodded. "Whatever you think is best." The restaurant was indeed amazing and indeed expensive. The four of us ran up a bill that would have covered my mortgage payment, all of it going on the credit cards that Alicia had opened in my name. She ordered wine like money was no object, which I supposed it was when you were spending someone else's. "To friendship," Dominic proposed, raising his glass. "To new adventures," Susie added. "To taking chances," Alicia said, looking directly at Dominic. "To getting what you deserve," I finished, looking directly at my wife. We clinked glasses, and I wondered if they could hear the threat in my words. After dinner, we walked along the beach, the warm sand between our toes, and the sound of waves providing a romantic backdrop for what was essentially a performance. Alicia and I walked together, but her attention was constantly drifting to Dominic, who was walking with Susie, but clearly wishing he was elsewhere. "This is nice," Alicia said, taking my arm. "Very nice." "Greg, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "I've been thinking about us lately, about what we want from life." Here it comes, I thought. The speech she'd probably been rehearsing for weeks. "What have you been thinking?" "Just that maybe we've been settling. Maybe we both deserve something more." "More what?" "More excitement, more passion, more everything." "Are you saying you're not happy?" "I'm saying I think we could both be happier." "With other people?" The question hung in the air between us like a landmine. Alicia stopped walking and turned to face me, and in the moonlight, she looked like a stranger. "Maybe," she said quietly. "Is there someone specific you have in mind?" "Greg. Because if there is, I'd rather know now than find out later." For a moment, I thought she was going to confess everything. Tell me about Dominic, about the money, about the plan to disappear. But then her mask slipped back into place. "There's no one specific. I'm just talking about possibilities." "Possibilities? Don't you ever wonder what else is out there?" "Every day," I said, and meant it. We walked back to the hotel in relative silence, the weight of unspoken truths making conversation impossible. In the elevator, Alicia announced that she was tired and wanted to go straight to bed. "Big day tomorrow," she said. "What's tomorrow?" "Susie wants to do some shopping. Girls' day." "What about Dominic?" "He's got some business to take care of. We'll probably all meet up for dinner." Business. Right. In our room, Alicia went through her nighttime routine with mechanical efficiency, like an actress preparing to exit the stage. She was already somewhere else in her mind, already living the life she'd planned without me. "Good night," she said, kissing my cheek. "Good night." I waited until her breathing evened out, then slipped onto the balcony and called Patricia. "Tomorrow's the day," I said. "I know. I've got everything ready." "Are you sure about this?" "Greg, they're planning to clean out your accounts tomorrow morning and disappear tomorrow night. If we don't act, you'll never see them or your money again." "What if something goes wrong?" "Then we'll improvise. But doing nothing isn't an option anymore." I looked back through the sliding door at my sleeping wife, still beautiful, still the woman I'd once thought I'd spend my life with. "Okay," I said. "Let's do this." Sweet dreams, Greg. Tomorrow we give them a wake-up call they'll never forget. I hung up and stood on the balcony for a long time, watching the waves crash against the beach below. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the masks would finally come off. And tomorrow, Alicia and Dominic would learn that sometimes the people you think you're fooling are actually the ones holding all the cards. I just hoped I was ready for what came next. I woke up to an empty bed and the sound of running water. Alicia was in the shower, humming something cheerful and completely off-key. Through the bathroom door, I could hear her phone buzzing repeatedly with incoming messages. "Busy morning?" I called out. "Just Susie coordinating our shopping trip," she called back. "You don't mind if I abandon you for a few hours, do you?" "Not at all. I might explore the city a bit." "Perfect. We'll meet back here around 5 to get ready for dinner." I checked the time. 8:30 a.m. Patricia and I had agreed to begin our operation at 10 a.m., which gave me just enough time to get into position. Alicia emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, her phone immediately in her hand. She was texting rapidly, her fingers flying across the screen with practiced efficiency. "Change of plans," she announced. "Susie wants to grab breakfast first, then hit the shops. Might be gone most of the day." "No problem. I'll find ways to entertain myself." She kissed me goodbye with the kind of distracted affection you'd give a roommate, then grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "Love you," she called over her shoulder. "Love you too," I replied to the closing door. But we both knew those words didn't mean anything anymore. I waited exactly 5 minutes before calling Patricia. "She's gone," I reported. "I know. I watched her get on the elevator. Dominic left his room about 2 minutes later." "Where are they going?" "Bank first, then the airport to change their flights to tonight instead of tomorrow." "You're sure?" "I'm sure. I've been tracking their communications since yesterday. They're moving up their timeline." My stomach clenched. "Why?" "Because they think you're getting suspicious. Alicia told Dominic you asked too many questions about the money last night." I hadn't asked any questions about money, but apparently my general behavior was making them nervous enough to accelerate their escape plan. "What's our move?" "Meet me in the lobby in 10 minutes. We're going to follow them and document everything." The next 3 hours were like something out of a spy movie, if spy movies were about suburban betrayal instead of international intrigue. Patricia and I followed Alicia, Dominic, and Susie as they made their rounds through Miami, visiting banks, travel agencies, and finally a law office where they spent an hour doing something that required a lot of paperwork. "What do you think that was about?" I asked as we sat in a rental car across from the law office. "Probably setting up new identities or transferring assets, maybe both." Patricia had been right about everything so far, so I didn't question her assessment. But watching my wife systematically dismantle our life while pretending to shop for souvenirs was surreal in a way that made me question reality itself. "How do you do this?" I asked. "How do you watch someone you loved destroy everything and stay calm?" "Practice," Patricia said simply, "and the knowledge that they're about to get exactly what they deserve." At 2 p.m., the 3 conspirators returned to the hotel. Patricia and I watched them from the lobby bar as they huddled together near the elevators, their body language suggesting urgent conversation. "They're arguing about something," I observed. "Probably the timing. Moving up their departure means they have to compress their plans." "Is that good for us?" "Very good. Rushed people make mistakes." As if to prove her point, Dominic pulled out his phone and made a call right there in the lobby, speaking loudly enough that we could hear fragments of his conversation. "Flights tonight. Yes, both of them. Cash only. No paper trail." He was booking their escape flights in full view of hotel security cameras, using a phone that could be traced. Patricia was right about rushed people making mistakes. "Time for Phase 2, Patricia announced. "Which is?" "Confrontation." She stood up and walked directly toward the 3 conspirators, her blonde wig and sunglasses making her unrecognizable until she was close enough to touch them. "Hello, Dominic," she said. The effect was immediate and devastating. Dominic's face went white, Susie took a step backward, and Alicia looked confused until she realized who she was looking at. "Patricia?" Dominic stammered. "What are you doing here?" "Same thing you are, apparently. Enjoying a vacation in Miami." "This isn't what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks like you're stealing money and planning to disappear with your girlfriend." Alicia finally found her voice. "Who is this person?" "I'm his wife," Patricia said calmly. "The one he's been stealing from to fund your little adventure." The lobby suddenly felt very quiet, despite the normal hotel noise around us. Other guests were starting to notice the confrontation, and I could see hotel security beginning to take interest. "We should take this somewhere private," Susie suggested. "Why?" Patricia asked. "Ashamed of something?" "Look," Dominic said, trying to regain control of the situation. "This is between Patricia and me. It doesn't involve anyone else." "It involves me when you're using my money," I said, stepping out of the shadows. If Dominic had looked shocked before, now he looked terrified. His eyes darted between Patricia and me, clearly trying to figure out how much we knew and how long we'd been working together. "Greg," Alicia said, and her voice was very small. "What's going on?" "That's an excellent question. Why don't you tell me?" "Tell you what?" "Tell me about the money you've been stealing. Tell me about the fake identities. Tell me about the new life you're planning with someone else's husband." Alicia's face cycled through several emotions: surprise, fear, anger, and finally resignation. She straightened her shoulders and looked me directly in the eye. "Fine," she said. "You want to know? Yes, I'm leaving you. Yes, I'm with Dominic. And yes, I took money from our accounts to make it happen." "How much money?" "Enough." "How much, Alicia?" $50,000 from our savings plus the credit card advances." "So you admit to theft?" "I admit to taking what I needed to start over." "What you needed?" I could feel my voice rising. "You needed to steal from your husband to run away with another woman's husband?" "I needed to get away from a life that was making me miserable." The words hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd been expecting them. Hearing your wife say that being married to you made her miserable was different from suspecting it. "So, this is my fault?" "This is nobody's fault. It's just what happened. What happened is that you committed fraud and adultery. What happened is that I fell in love with someone else." Dominic had been silent during this exchange, but now he stepped forward and put his arm around Alicia. "We didn't mean for it to happen this way," he said, "but we're not going to apologize for finding happiness." "Happiness built on stolen money and lies," Patricia said. "We'll pay you back," Susie said suddenly. "Once we're settled, we'll send you the money." "With what?" I asked. "You're unemployed, Dominic's unemployed, and Alicia works part-time at a fitness studio. Where exactly is this payback money going to come from?" "We'll figure it out," Alicia said. "No," I said. "You won't, because you're not going anywhere." "You can't stop us," Dominic said, and for the first time there was a threat in his voice. "Actually, I can." I pulled out my phone and showed them a video I'd recorded that morning while they were at the bank. "Turns out bank security cameras are pretty good these days. This footage shows you withdrawing the last of our money using forged documents. That's a federal crime." "You can't prove those documents were forged," Susie said. "I can when the signatures don't match the ones on file with the bank. Patricia and I spent this morning with a very helpful FBI agent who specializes in financial fraud. This was a bluff, but a convincing one. All three of them paled at the mention of the FBI. "What do you want?" Alicia asked quietly. "I want my money back. All of it. I want you to cancel whatever travel arrangements you've made, and I want you to disappear from my life forever. And if we refuse, then you can explain your vacation plans to federal prosecutors." Patricia stepped forward. There's also the matter of the previous theft. Dominic's first wife would be very interested to know that he's using the same playbook he used on her. You wouldn't, Dominic said. Try me. The four of us stood in the hotel lobby, locked in a standoff that felt like it could last forever. Around us, normal people were going about their normal vacations, completely unaware of the drama unfolding in their midst. Finally, Alicia broke the silence. Fine, she said. You win. This isn't about winning, I said. This is about consequences. What do you want us to do? Patricia pulled out a document from her purse. Sign this. It's a confession detailing exactly what you've done and an agreement to repay every penny you've stolen. And if we sign it, then you get to walk away instead of being arrested. Dominic looked at the document, then at Alicia, then at Susie. This is insane. What's insane is thinking you could steal from us and disappear without consequences, I said. We need a lawyer, Susie said. You need to sign the document, Patricia replied. Because in about 10 minutes, hotel security is going to escort you off the property, and after that, your legal problems become much more complicated. As if summoned, 2 security guards appeared at the edge of our group, clearly responding to reports of a disturbance. Everything okay here? One of them asked. Just a misunderstanding between friends, I said. We're working it out. You have 5 minutes to work it out, then we're going to ask you to take this conversation elsewhere. After the guards moved away, Alicia looked at me with something that might have been respect. You planned this whole thing. I learned from the best, I said, looking at her. Turns out I'm pretty good at deception when I need to be. So what happens now? Now you sign the document, transfer the money back to our accounts, and get on a plane back to reality. And then? And then you get to live with the consequences of your choices. Alicia took the pen Patricia offered and signed the document without reading it. Dominic and Susie followed suit, their faces grim with the realization that their perfect plan had collapsed completely. The money will be back in your accounts by tomorrow, Alicia said. It better be. What about us? What about you? I mean, what happens between us? I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 5 years, this stranger who'd systematically planned to destroy my life, and felt nothing but exhaustion. There is no us anymore, Alicia. There probably hasn't been for a long time. Greg, don't. Just don't. Get your things and go home. We'll figure out the divorce details later. She nodded and walked toward the elevators, her shoulders slumped in defeat. Dominic and Susie followed, their grand adventure reduced to a humiliating retreat. Patricia and I watched them go, then looked at each other. Think they'll actually transfer the money back? I asked. They don't have a choice. I may have exaggerated about the FBI agent, but the bank fraud charges are real. They know that. So what now? Now we go home and rebuild our lives. Together? Patricia smiled, but it was sad rather than happy. No, Greg. We were allies in this, but we're not partners in life. We both have too much healing to do. She was right, of course. What we'd shared was trauma and revenge, not love. Thank you, I said, for everything. Thank you, too, for being the partner I needed to make this right. We shook hands like business associates concluding a successful deal, which in many ways we were. As I packed my things and prepared to fly home alone, I thought about the difference between justice and revenge. Patricia had been right that there was a difference, but I wasn't sure which one we'd achieved. What I did know was that Alicia, Dominic, and Susie had learned that actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences are delivered by the people you least expect to fight back. The flight home was turbulent, but I didn't mind. I was finally heading toward something real instead of running from it, and for the first time in months, that felt like enough.